No.
Well, hello everybody, and you are very welcome to the 5th day of Christmas. And we're delighted to see that Shauna and Mary have brought their antlers. So there's going to be a great festivity. Anybody else that wants to add any festivities? Ashleen, we're loving your hairbands, very glamorous there as well. So thank you all for making the effort and coming along today. So my name is Evelyn McGlynn. I am the PRO of Donegal Women in Business Network. I have a marketing company, and I have been tasked with the brilliant task of interviewing the very amazing Mary McKenna. And I have to admit that I didn't know enough about Mary McKenna until I did more and more research. You know, there's so many amazing women in business in the county, and you think you know all of them on the basis, but then when you take the time to actually sort of look right down. So I'm going to pass you on to Mary. She's going to tell you a little bit, but just want to tell you that Mary is Donegal based, and she lives in Inishowen. She's a serial entrepreneur and angel investor, and she's going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And she recently co-founded the social enterprise Awaken Hub, which is brilliant, been to it once. And she's very much for the female entrepreneur in terms of her angel funding and her support. So Mary, we're going to kick off. And the first thing I'd like is tell me a little bit about Mary McKenna that we don't know about, and why is Inishowen so amazing?
Well, thanks ever so much, Evelyn, and it's really nice to see everybody today, and good to be here and good to see so many people. And I'm really, really happy that you've got the camera switched on, because there's nothing worse than just talking into the void and not knowing who's actually there. So we're going to save some time at the end for some questions. So if you have any questions, please think of them as we go along. So I'm originally from Northern Ireland, but my sister and I were brought up in Yorkshire in England, and I moved back to Northern Ireland about 20 years ago. But my grandmother came from the mountain behind Moville, and we always came to Inishowen when we were children for our summer holidays. So our great auntie used to have the little house in Redcastle that used to be the post office until the 1940s. So it's the little house on the roadside as you drive between Redcastle and Derry. As you go past the pub, my auntie's house was the next one along, right down beside the road. And so when we were kids, we used to go there on our holidays and watch the boats going up and down Lough Foyle. And it's the place that my mother spent the last 20 years of her life, living in Redcastle. So it's kind of always been home, and we've been living back here now for 4.5 years, and I can't imagine that we'll ever leave, because it's such a great place to live.
Great. And but you're actually have been a global, you've been traveling globally. So how does it now, because you just mentioned that you're sitting in your front porch, and we were just saying what amazing ring light she has, but no, it was the natural light of Inishowen that is making her glow. So that's what we're all missing. So Mary, tell me, why do you think Inishowen is such a great place for someone to start up a business?
Well, I think, we'll start off by saying that I think the lesson that everybody has learned this year from COVID is that whole thing that I call the necessity of proximity is finished. You can be a global business and you can be based anywhere at all in the world. So I used to always just do a bit of work, really for myself in the UK and in Ireland. But since the first lockdown, I have actually won new work in Switzerland, Cyprus, Germany, and England, all new clients. And they're people that I've never actually met in real life. None of them. I've only ever met them through Zoom. So you can start to form relationships with people that you've never actually met in real life, I think. And that's an important thing to keep in mind when you are starting. I'm mentoring founders in different parts of the world as well, particularly some in Africa, some in Spain, and some in the United States. This summer, I've spoken at events in Beirut, in New York, and later this week, I'm doing a talk in Brussels that's going to be for everybody right across the EU. And I've accepted speaking engagements in Ireland and in the UK that I would never have before considered, because just the sheer amount of time to travel there would have been off-putting. But I think if you're just doing something like this on Zoom, it's an hour of your time, and of course you're going to be able to give that. So there's a little tip, I think, for anybody that is running events. You know, you can reach out to anybody in the world and ask them to come onto your Zoom webinar. So I mean, I think a lot of us have been saying for years that you can build a business anywhere, but COVID's made that far more of a reality. And I think the other thing to say is that the year that we've had has made people reevaluate their lives a bit and think about their work-life balance. And I think place is very high on the list for a lot of people. And I think for a lot of Irish people that live away, I think many of them are thinking about moving home. So why would you choose Inishowen? We have plenty of space. It's affordable. Get beyond the jokes. The broadband's really not that bad. It does operate okay, and we've all managed to get by on Zoom over the last 9 months, so it's working fine. There's a lot of talent here in this little corner of Donegal, and I think if we had more jobs for people, there'd be lots of others that would move back here too. I think it's a corner of Ireland that has been really undervalued in the past, but I think that the government is cottoning on to the idea that there's lots of potential here, and I think that it has been underinvested in, but hopefully that will be, I think that's going to be addressed. We've got amazing diaspora links, especially with the United States. We're near the border, which I'm looking at Mary when I say this, but I think it has to be an advantage one way or another. So I suppose we'll see about that in the next few weeks and months. And I think that stuff that used to be a real disadvantage for being based here, like being a long way from the big cities and having not really great transport links, that stuff's not as important as it used to be. And so, you know, you still might have to travel once in a while when things go back to normal, but nothing like what it used to be. And I suppose the last thing to say is we can live by the beach. Who wouldn't want that from their working life? So that's all my reasons for why Inishowen's a brilliant place to base your business.
Well, I think that certainly will have to go into the blog, Shauna, and Anna, that definitely will be a big part of what we're writing up, because after all our interviews, we're going to do a great big blog on all of the facts and all the pointers. And Mary, do you miss the traveling? Do you miss actual getting on the plane?
I don't miss it. I do miss I kind of miss the bits of downtime that you have when you're traveling. I think we've all got into a way of working where you just do sort of like one Zoom call after another, and all that, you miss all those little bits of time where you could just sit having a coffee in the airport, or make a couple of calls, or just sit and chat to your friends, or do a bit of shopping in between things. I mean, I miss that, but I don't miss the long days and you know, hanging about and all that. So
yeah, it's the fun experiences of traveling. But as you say, you have certainly you've got it all there in Inishowen. So with all the experience and everybody that you've dealt with over the years and helped over the years, mentored all of those businesses, you have a great take on, you know, if somebody comes to you, and I'm sure people come to you all the time and say, I've got an idea and I want to start my own business. What next? What would your first words of advice and support?
I'd probably say, are you sure?
Yeah, probably.
Because, you know, I mean, it isn't really, it's not a decision that should be taken lightly, I would say, you know, but I would start off on a more positive note. I really think that the time is right to start a new business. So if any of you are thinking about that, I really think the time is right. The old rules are all gone, and you know, everything's to play for and everything's up for grabs. But I would probably advise you to spend a bit of time making sure that the startup life is a good fit for you. You know, in those early days, it can be a bit tough. But once you've started to get customers, and once you've got your tech built, and once you've started employing people, it's very difficult at that point to turn back. So, you know, I think look at it warts and all and think about what the commitments will be before you jump in. Maybe figure out where you're going to get some startup capital or some funding to get you started. That's something that we could come back to and talk about a bit later in the questions and answers if anybody's interested in how to do that. You do need a business idea. I kind of leave this one to last because it's honestly never as important as people think it is. You know, you could have lots and lots of ideas, but if you never follow any of them through, it doesn't come to anything. So the idea is actually not as important as many other parts of the jigsaw. If you do have an idea, and I know that a few of you on the call here are looking at new businesses at the moment, you know, it does take a lot of sense checking and I suppose qualifying it before you leave your job and invest your life savings into something that you don't really know if it's going to be successful or not. And then I suppose the other thing is, if you have an idea, you should maybe think about doing New Frontiers or joining an accelerator or finding somebody who might be a suitable co-founder for you. If you're going to build something that's going to scale, it's better to start with a co-founder if you can. So I suppose do a little bit of testing of your idea and think about it for a bit before you make the leap, I suppose would be my bits of advice there.
That's great advice. And you know, I was fascinated to hear that, you know, that the business idea is never as important as people think, you know, because everybody thinks, oh God, I've got this idea, then I'm going to go into business. But actually what you're saying is that if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you know, start with that and move on with that, because the ideas then may come or may be added to, which is a fabulous idea.
Yeah, and you certainly don't have to do something that is unique. And indeed, it's one of the things that investors will always ask you. If you tell them that you don't have any competition for what you do, they'll always question whether or not what you're actually doing has a market. So even just, I hate to say this, but even just like copying what somebody else is doing somewhere else, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of advantages actually to being a second mover. You know, if you're the first one to do something, it comes with a lot of extra work and extra risk, I think.
And so once they've got the idea or the business or the entrepreneurial spirit to do it, and they've qualified their idea a little bit more, what should they do next? Or is there key steps they need to follow?
Well, I think this is one that you like anyway, Evelyn, with Donegal Women in Business. I think you should probably look around and see if there are any business-focused groups that you can join and start building out your network. So you should look locally, then nationally, then internationally, and you should start assembling, you know, a good business network. There's plenty of good ones to join round and about.
And tell us about Awaken Hub.
And Awaken Hub's there, of course. You know, we started it during COVID as a way of connecting female entrepreneurs across the island of Ireland. I think often we do things in this country very much on a county basis. And Awaken Hub has just been a way of extending that a bit so that women can meet other women who are doing similar things on different parts of the island. And so far that's going really well, and it's been a lot of fun. I think you should look to see what skills you're missing in yourself. So perhaps that might be that you're a great person for a product design, but you maybe don't know much about HR or you don't know anything about finance. And I can see Anna's on the call here, and you know, looking around to see what resources there might be locally for you to get some extra training and upskill yourself, I think is a good idea. One of the suggestions that would be quite high up my list would be to get yourself a really kick-ass website and a marketing strategy. Everything, and you'll agree with this, Evelyn, everything in life starts with your brand and your profile and your marketing, and how you grow is really key. Particularly if you're going to go global from day one, you really need to have that shiny, slick website that's frictionless and where people can pay for stuff straight away, no trouble, no blockages or no hurdles for them to climb over, so that they can just buy stuff from you really quickly. That's probably what I think. Don't know if you've anything that you'd like to add on to that.
No, I mean, that's exactly, in terms of networking, to me, it's a drug. I just love networking for the pure passion of it. And, I was so sad and lonely at the beginning of lockdown because I missed so much human contact. And so I then kind of threw myself into doing it on Zoom. And now I love equally both. And I get, as you said, Mary, I get a great kick now of maybe meeting somebody from New York. I connected with somebody on your event, Hoey, Kelly, that the networking event, and I connected with somebody from New York, and I was just so excited at the fact, that here I was networking with somebody that was sitting in sort of just off Central Park. So I mean, it is that thing. And again, in terms of teams and strengths, we all think we know something, but we all don't know everything. So it's that connecting with other people, and it's very, very exciting. But Mary, you mentioned something last night when we spoke, and I think it was really important as well. You spoke about culture, and when your business learning pool, and you set up, and you spoke to me a little bit about culture, and I was thinking about that afterwards. Do you want to share that with the group today about your thoughts on the importance of culture and boundaries and values? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so we were talking, Evelyn and I were chatting yesterday because we'd both read a blog out of the Harvard Business Review yesterday about from a man called Clay Christensen, who had been writing about how he'd built value-driven businesses and how everything's around culture, and it's about where your boundaries lie and those sorts of things. And we were chatting about this, and I think that's a really key part of particularly maybe why the way that women build businesses. It was one of the reasons that I started my own business, was because I was really fed up of working in other people's businesses. I don't wish to cause Kevin any offense if he's on the call here, but a lot of the people that I'd worked for in my working life were men, and they tended to not really build businesses that had a particularly nice working culture. So people showed up for work, but they didn't really, it wasn't really a place that you desperately wanted to get to in the morning, and you didn't want to leave in the evening and stuff. And I wanted to build a company that was like that was a place where people literally wanted to jump out of bed in the morning and rush to work as quick as they could. And I suppose one of the things that we talked as well, Evelyn, about legacy and about what you leave behind you from your
Definitely.
business life.
And before you say that, I just want to, because you didn't mention it, and maybe not everyone on here knows it, but Mary was actually awarded an MBE in the 2014 New Year's Honours for services to digital technology, innovation and learning. And I bring that up because I'm not sure there's many people in Donegal that actually have that accolade. And in terms of legacy, we spoke about that as well. That's a pretty cool legacy to have. But please, Mary, continue because the others are equally, if not more, important.
So I'm not really a big picture legacy person. Like you meet people and they are going to fix the whole world with whatever it is that they're going to do. I'm not like that at all. I just do small legacy pieces, things that I can actually touch with my own hands almost. So stuff that is very local and that is very meaningful, but only really touches a small number of people. So I suppose the things that I do is I do some mentoring. I think I'm maybe mentoring 6 founding teams at the moment that are young first-time entrepreneurs. I think that's an important thing to do. And of course, I had the sheer joy of spending a couple of years in with Mary at St. Mary's, a day a month with the girls in the St. Mary's College in Derry, which was just like a wonderful place to be, and chatting to the girls about their career aspirations and careers in tech and starting their own business and things like that, which was fabulous. I also do a bit of early stage angel investment into very high risk, very early stage companies. And I pretty much invest in female founding teams these days. So that's something else I suppose that I do. And I guess I have invested in 8 early stage companies. And my rationale for that is if those 8 or 16 entrepreneurs, because most of them are co-founders, eventually go on to do that same thing themselves, then that starts the whole the ecosystem starts to grow and lots more companies are formed. And then I suppose the last thing that I would say is I'm really proud that many of the young people that came to work at Learning Pool in the really early days, shortly after we'd started up, 10 or 12 years ago, a lot of those young people have gone on to start their own businesses. Quite a few of them started up in Derry or in the Northwest. And again, that's just another way that you can make a small difference in helping to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem and for people to start up on their own. And it's really, really nice to see it, and it always makes me very proud.
That's fantastic, Mary. And I would totally agree with. I want to invite or welcome Aisling McDade, who's here. And Aisling is actually she's my intern at the moment. And she would often be asking a lot of the questions that you've just been talking about today, in terms of how do you get started and what do you do and all those things. And I always say it's so important to actually find a mentor and have somebody who's had experience that will help you along, and sometimes even help you just verbalize the things that are going on in your head. So I'm sure that all those people that you're mentoring, Mary, really over the years will value that and hopefully pass it on. So we're coming close to an end, but before we do, make sure you've got your questions ready. But Mary has got, because today is the 5th day of Christmas, and it's 5 gold rings. So Mary hasn't got 5 gold rings for us, but she's got 5 golden nuggets. And she's just going to give us those 5 golden nuggets that if we can at least adhere to or take away one of them today, it'll make a difference when we go off Zoom. And, we were saying as well, I'm doing a workshop on personal branding this week. And we always say that personal branding is what people say about you when you go off the room or off the Zoom. But even in terms of what Mary's telling us, if there's one little thing that we can take away from that, it may not be angel investment or it may not be mentoring that our issue is, but, it might be, do you know what? Mary says, I really need to get a kick-ass website, so I've got to do that. And so we have no doubt that the next 5 golden nuggets that Mary's going to give us are ones. So pay attention, get ready with the questions. Mary.
So I'm already thinking to myself that as soon as we get off the Zoom, people will be saying, why the hell did Shauna McKenna and Mary McKenna have those crazy antlers on theirs today? But anyway, we'll do the 5 golden nuggets, and then I'm going to take a photograph of everybody. So my first one that I think you're all going to love, this one, is believe in yourself and be brave. That's rule number 1. The second one is, and there's something that you just touched on a little bit there, actually, Evan, is ask for help if you need it, because hardly anybody ever says no. Number 3, there's a bit of a theme here. Number 3 is be nice. And remember that business, like life, is a repeat game where everything and everyone comes back around. Number 4, spend a bit of time finding your tribe. Remember that everything in business is about people, and every opportunity, no matter how small or how big it is attached to a person. And the last one, if you've been thinking for a while about coming home to Inishowen, now is the time to do that before the rush really gets going and there'll be no room for you. So get home quickly and come and join the rest of us. Larissa Feeney, you're switching your camera on so I can take a photo here, please.
I'm out walking, Mary.
Oh, hi! Great to see you, Larissa. Thank you, Joe. Joe's with us too.
Multitasking.
I'm ready to take my picture, but I have 2 whose cameras are not on. Okay, everybody smile, please. Thank you.
Great, brilliant. So you'll put that up, Mary, and we'll share, yes?
I will indeed, yes.
Great. Okay, so who has a question for us?
So the rule is, if you're going to have a question, we need you to ask it out loud instead of just posting it up through the chat. So please ask away.
Okay.
I can't believe you haven't got any questions.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Marie, yes?
Hello. Hello, everybody. Delighted to see you, Mary.
Nice to see you, Mary. Great to see you looking so well.
I'm great, doing great, thank you. And just delighted to join. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this morning. And thank you, Anna, for helping me get hooked up. I could talk to Mary all day. I'll just begin by saying that, you know, my background's in schools, and I think entrepreneurship and teaching people about business is something we don't do very well. So I took what Mary's thing was about ask for help. That's how Mary and I got linked. She came in, we run an entrepreneurship week, and she came into St. Mary's to do a little talk to a big assembly hall of girls. And when she was going out the door, we just said, Mary, will you come and help us? And as she said, she said yes. So we had this incredible lady working with small groups of classes for a full day every month. And, you know, she took the young girls in year 8, which are what they're 11 and 12-year-olds, right up to our senior girls in small groups and taught them about being an entrepreneur. And it was phenomenal. The staff that were in were talking about Mary and what she could do. So I think, you know, there's nothing I can say about Mary and about her influence. And she talks about those small influences. Believe you me, her influence is huge. And the other thing is, Mary is a phenomenal networker, incredible what she does. So I'm going to ask you, Mary, what I know you know a lot about and that maybe you didn't quite touch on. You are passionate about tech for good and STEM, and it's something, a kind of a passion we both share. So, and also, you know, the fact that you are very much backing the female entrepreneur. Is it different, do you think, that for people, for women who have an idea in tech or STEM, do you think starting up their business is different? And in what way is it different? So have you any advice just specifically for that sector?
I think it is different. As we know, only 1 penny out of every pound that is invested by investors and by venture capitalists goes to a woman or a female founding team. So women that are out there hustling to raise money for their business and whatever, they always find it a lot more difficult than men do. And a lot of this comes down to network and support. The men have been doing this for years and years through their golf clubs and all the other ways that we know. It's fairly sort of newish for women to start supporting each other more positively. And it's definitely needed because there is a huge gulf between the success that women have in starting STEM related businesses and the success that men have. The men are all they're all kind of investing in other men that look like them and sound like them and act like them. And I think when a woman walks into that meeting, it's often men on the other side of the table that will decide whether or not to invest in her. And there's lots of research been done on how women actually get asked different questions than men do when they go along to that investment pitch. So, you know, the men would never dream of asking another man, you know, like, who's going to look after your family while you're working 25 hours a day on this project? But it could be the first thing that they'll ask a woman when she walks in. However, I joined a call with some young women in Beirut a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, if we think we have it hard here, you should listen to some of those women that are starting businesses talk about how difficult it is for them. So when they go along to the bank to borrow money, they've actually got to take their dad or their brother with them because the bank won't even entertain lending money to a woman who comes in by themselves. So we have small things to be grateful for, but we also have a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks, Mary. That was a great question. And thanks for highlighting that about Mary and Entrepreneur in Residence, which we had spoke about. So well done on that. And I think definitely entrepreneurship and with the youth, it does need to be started early. And that's definitely a great start to that. Do we have any more questions? Karen?
Mary.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. My question relates to a founder or a co-founder, and is at what point should that happen? Should it be ideally at the start, or do you need to have a customer, or at what point would you suggest that?
I think you probably, if you're building something big and it's going to scale, you should probably look for a co-founder as early as you can. When we started Learning Pool, we were already a co-founding team before we got our first customer. I think it's there's so much to do if it's a tech startup. There's just so much to do that it's unlikely that a person is going to have enough hours in the day to do all the things that they need to. But maybe the more important point is it's unlikely that you have all the skills that you need in one person, because startup founder role covers so much. It covers product development, marketing, HR, sales, IT, legal, all the other stuff that you can think of. And it's rare to find this, particularly the salesy person and the tech person in a single human body. So often you need to, you should look for somebody. It's often a good idea to find a co-founder who is a different gender from you, just because it just gives you a bit of variety in how you sell. Actually, some customers like to buy from women and some customers like to buy from men, and if you've got one of each, it helps you there. So yeah, I think, but having said that, it's very difficult to find a co-founder. It's probably not a good idea to co-found with a close friend or a relative or your spouse, because I think it probably just puts a lot of extra strain onto your existing relationships. And it's fine when everything's going well, but nothing, things don't usually go that well in a startup, particularly in the early years. And there is a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. So, but it probably is somebody that I wouldn't advise anybody to go into business with a person that they've only just met or that they don't know very well. So like people you've worked with before are often good choices, or, somebody that you've known for a while and that you get on well with, because you'll end up spending an awful lot of time with them. So yeah, it's tricky.
Okay, thanks, Karen, for that, and thanks, Mary. So we have one last question from Anna. Unmute.
Mary, when I came back down to working in a showing, the one thing I was blown away with was the amount of manufacturing and electronic businesses that are in a showing, and I think I was even more surprised at how little tech businesses are in a showing. So, where are we missing the trick? Because they both, as businesses, one should nearly need the other, if you know what I mean. Is there something we should be doing that highlights one and shows the benefit of the other coming here? Does that make sense?
I come from County Tyrone, and County Tyrone is very heavily populated by engineering companies, but there are hardly any tech businesses there at all. And so I think it's maybe similar. I think that the Northwest is quite low down generally on the number of tech startups that there are here. I sometimes write the narrative for the quarterly reviews for Tech Ireland, and when I do the Northern Ireland part, for example, all of the tech businesses, nearly all of them, are based in Belfast. And so I think it's something that will change with post-COVID. I think that there are an awful lot of people who want to relocate their families outside of the cities. There must be tons of people that have moved back to Donegal from other places in the world already, or are thinking about it. And I think that as people review their work-life balances going forward, I do think that more and more people will start a business. So I think that it's something that we'll see a lot more of, and hopefully that will be tech businesses, and hopefully they will be here in Inishowen. And there's no reason why you couldn't start a scaling tech business here. There's nothing at all to stop you from doing that.
Great. Okay, thank you. Before we finish up, Mary, where can people read more, see more of Mary McKenna? You've got a website, and
I have a blog that I write at kickingassets.co.uk. You can find me at any hour of the day or night, the Twitters,
and Awaken Hub it's on Twitter as well. You can find out more details.
And Awaken Hub, if anybody wants to come along, I think there's maybe a small number of tickets left for our Christmas do on the 15th of December, but I just put a little warning on there. Don't expect any serious business to be happening that evening, because it's going to be more of this sort of stuff and people just doing a bit of networking and having a few laughs and maybe a few drinks. So yeah.
Great. Okay.
And thanks very much for the opportunity to come along to meet everybody today, Anna and Evelyn. It's been really a lot of fun. Thank you.
Great. And before we hand back to you, Anna, so Donegal Women in Business Network, you'll get us on our website, on social media, and we're very much supportive and welcoming of everybody. And it's amazing the amount of business that's been done. Our president is online, our secretary is online, and our treasurer are all online today. So it's great to support everybody and to welcome to everybody. So Anna, do you want to tell us all about the next few days of Christmas? Mary, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you very much. And we're looking forward next week to our final get together for an interview. But I'll let Anna, I won't spoil any surprises. I'll let Anna tell you.
Yeah, so we're getting midway through our 12 days of Christmas, and each day, it's just taking completely different turns. I think from even what I originally expected it to be. And we had some great success over the weekend with our 30 under 30, and we actually have 35 now. Amazing young entrepreneurs, absolutely brilliant. So we're hoping to get them on, or as many of them as possible, on tomorrow with our enterprise department. And Sinead is going to talk about what's available out there and what can happen for people if they do ask for help, as Mary has said. So as well as within IDP, it's what else is out there. But there's other events as well, and we have about linking up all your socials so that your life is not tied to your socials, and that's coming up with Meg, and also about videoing and using video content, to make your socials just that little bit different. So there's just lots of stuff. And Karen, you're coming on next week as well to talk about ISEN, which has just been such a brilliant initiative and so important to the social economy businesses that are within Inishowen. Shauna, do you want to add anything there that I am missing on? Just for those of you who don't know, Shauna is our the head of IDP in Buncrana and looks after us all and drives us all forward. So I'm going to bounce on her, which she's going to hate me for, but
I was actually enjoying the incognito part there. So Mary, thank you very much for today. I really enjoyed it, and Evelyn as well. Just you've been a great host on some of these sessions, so it's been great to have that professional approach. Thanks to everybody for signing on, and the support that we've got from Donegal Women in Business around this as well, and for everybody who's shared this. I think Mary is going to be on as well. I think is going to talk about our employment support services, is another one of our lunchtime sessions. So you'll find out more information around that. So for your friends and family, if they need supports around employment services. So it's great just a kind of a short snapshot of kind of what's available out there. I think, as Mary says, networking is so important, and I really I know that definitely our website is something that we need to be working on and have been started to work on. So that's something that we'll be looking at. So just some great nuggets of information. So thank you very much for that.
Great. So thank you all very much. Happy Christmas to those of you who we won't see before Christmas, but hopefully we'll see some of you on some other days of Christmas. Mary McKenna, it was a pleasure. Anna, Shauna, thank you all so much. Have a brilliant afternoon. And as Mary McKenna says, be nice. Be nice.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.